Welcome back to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're really getting into a story that's, well, it's incredibly complex. It's been developing for years now, touches on the music industry, serious legal stuff, and just, real personal tragedy.
It really does.
We've got quite the stack of sources for this one. There's some deep dive YouTube videos, and some of those really dig into court transcripts. Others look at street theories.
Right, the kind of stuff bubbling up online.
Exactly. Plus official news reports, and even a pretty detailed Wikipedia entry to sort of anchor things.
Look a mix.
Our mission here is to try and cut through all that noise, unpack the layers surrounding the murder of Jobina Brown. She was known as the aunt and manager of Detroit rapper Tee Grizzley. And then there's this whole twisting legal case against the alleged killer. You're going to hear about conflicting accounts, some really surprising details.
Yeah.
Honestly, it feels like a case that just keeps raising more questions.
That's spot on. What's really striking is just how much information is out there floating around, but at the same time, how many gaps and completely different stories exist.
Yeah.
So we'll lay out the facts as they're presented in these sources. We'll look closely at the timeline, explore the different theories. But we're not taking sides here, just trying to help you grasp the full picture, understand why it's still so talked about.
Okay, so let's set the scene first. Let's talk about the central figure, Tee Grizzley, who is Terry Sanchez Wallace Jr. What was his journey like leading up to this tragedy?
Well, the sources tell us Tee Grizzley was born March 23, 1994 in Detroit, and his early life was incredibly tough. His mother got sentenced to 20 years for drug trafficking when he was just a teen. She only got out in late 2020.
Wow.
And his father was murdered back in 2012. So he ended up being raised mostly by his grandmother.
That's a lot to deal with growing up.
It really is. He actually went to Michigan State University for a bit, finance and accounting.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
Yeah, but he got caught up in some burglaries there, ended up fleeing to Kentucky, did time for robbery, 9 months in Kentucky, then got hit with an 18-month to 15-year sentence for the Michigan State stuff.
So definitely a challenging background. It really makes you think about how that shapes someone, doesn't it?
There.
But then, after he gets released from prison in Michigan, October 2016, his career just explodes almost overnight, right?
Absolutely. The turnaround was kind of incredible. Just a month later, November 2016, he drops First Day Out.
The big one.
The big one. It went viral almost instantly. Millions of views, big cosigns from Jay-Z, LeBron James.
Huge names.
Yeah. Then he signs with 300 Entertainment and Atlantic Records in 2017. And from there, it was just mixtape after mixtape, album after album, including his debut studio album, Activated in 2018, just a rapid rise.
Okay, so that sets the scene for his career taking off. But then the story shifts dramatically. We move from that meteoric rise to this just shocking personal tragedy. That night, in August 2019, Jobina Brown's life was cut short. A moment that just changed everything for Tee Grizzley. What exactly happened?
So it was August 20, 2019, around 9:30 at night. Jobina Brown, she was 41. She was shot and killed. She was sitting in a black Chrysler 300.
Yeah.
This happened on the 3600 block of 3M Drive in Detroit. And Tee Grizzley had actually just gotten out of that same car minutes before the shots were fired.
Wow. Minutes. And Jobina Brown, she was clearly more than just his manager, wasn't she? Referred to as his aunt. What do we know about her role, her relationship with him?
Yeah, she was absolute pivotal. The sources say she was publicly called his aunt. Now, whether that was blood relation or through marriage, that seems a little unclear, kind of debated.
Okay.
Besides Tee Grizzley, she also managed another rapper, Sada Baby. And everyone who knew her, they just describe her in really glowing terms, kind-hearted, hard worker, a sweetheart, committed.
Sounds like a really grounding force.
Totally. She was apparently instrumental in his early career. She personally paid for his First Day Out video, even the outfit he wore in it.
No way.
Yeah. One source put it really powerfully, said she was the only one who believed in him right when he first got out of jail. That kind of support, it's huge.
That really puts things in perspective. Okay, so what about the details of that night from Tee Grizzley's own perspective? What's his account?
Okay, so according to his statements, like the ones looked at in your sources, they'd been at the studio earlier. He was heading to his older cousin's house, another ounce place.
Right.
He says he urged Jobina, begged her even, to come inside with him. But she refused. Apparently she was a very clean person, didn't want to go into the them people house or sit on their furniture. That's his quote.
Okay.
So he says he went to the door. His other aunt was just about to open the garage. And then he hears a whole bunch of shots going off right behind him.
Right behind him?
Yeah. He says he immediately got down, figured they were shooting at him, and says he was unarmed, had nothing on him. Then he claims his cousin ran out with a gun. When they went outside, the driver was gone. No cars in the street, so he thought the shooters had left.
And the driver just disappeared.
Apparently. Later, he says his driver called him, explained that, quote, some individuals opened my door trying to get at me, end up hitting her up.
So the driver's saying they were going for the driver, or T, but hit her.
That seems to be the implication of that quote, yeah. Tee Grizzley says she was hit 8 times. On her side, her arm, near her heart. He also mentioned, interestingly, that she'd been shot in the exact same place before, but survived because she got straight to the hospital.
Wow.
He said she managed to call him while she was shot, but couldn't form words. She died later at the hospital. And his reaction, he claimed he had no idea where this came from, felt like everybody was a suspect.
Okay, wow. That's a heavy account.
Uh-huh.
A lot to unpack just in his version of events. What happened next? How did the police respond?
Well, Detroit police immediately stated they were actively investigating it as a homicide. They put out a flyer pretty quickly, offering a $2,500 reward for info leading to an arrest.
Standard procedure, trying to leads.
Right. And then, about a month after her death, Tee Grizzley released a song and a music video called Satish. It was positioned as a tribute.
Okay.
But that video sparked a lot of controversy. Some people looked at the lyrics and felt it was, encouraging violence or maybe even putting a bounty on the killer's head.
I can see how that could be interpreted that way.
Definitely. We see reactions in the sources, like Dr. Kim Logan Nolan, a family counselor, reacting to the lyrics, urging him to redirect that anger in a healthier way. And a local activist named Zeit was advocating for, prevention and education to try and stop the cycle of gun violence.
So the grief is public, but it's also complex and drawing reactions. Then the investigation moves forward. And just 2 months later, there's an arrest. This is where it gets really interesting, isn't it?
It really does. October 19th, 2019. So yeah, just 2 months after the murder. A guy named Jermaine Weeden, also known as Thang, gets arrested. But not in Detroit. In Chicago.
Chicago. How did that happen?
Chicago police officers were just on routine patrol. They got a report about a guy and a woman in a stolen blue Nissan Versa with New York plates.
Okay.
They spot the car. Thang takes off running. He physically resisted when they caught him. And during that struggle, a loaded Glock 23, that's a .40 caliber semi-automatic handgun, fell right out of his pants leg.
Wow. Just fell out.
Just fell out. And they also found an extended magazine back in the stolen car.
So a pretty dramatic arrest. Now, that handgun, was it significant to Jobina Brown's case?
Critically significant, absolutely. By February 2020, ballistics testing confirmed it. That Glock 23 found on Thang in Chicago, it was the exact same gun used to kill Jobina Brown in Detroit.
Undeniable physical evidence linking him directly to the weapon.
Exactly. And that stolen Nissan Versa. Also confirmed. It was a Hertz rental car reported stolen back in September 2019, putting him in possession of it around the time frame.
Okay, so a very clear connection. But Thang himself, he had record, right? And there was something unusual about his bond situation after this arrest.
Yeah, the sources really highlight this. Thang wasn't just some random guy. He was labeled a habitual offender. Serious criminal background.
Like what?
Felony convictions for unlawful weapon use. One in 2016 got a year in prison. Another in 2018 got 42 months. So point blank, he should not have been anywhere near a firearm.
Right. Legally prohibited.
Exactly. And what's even more notable, maybe baffling to some, is that at the time of Jobina Brown's murder, he was already on probation and wearing a tether.
He was wearing an ankle monitor when the murder happened.
That's what the sources indicate, yes. A location tracking tether.
Okay, that adds another layer entirely.
It does. And despite being arrested for murder with this ballistics match and initially facing federal charges too, though those got dismissed temporarily, which is another point people find odd. He was given bond, $75,000, 10% cash.
So he only needed $7,500 to get out for a murder charge. While on probation with a tether.
Correct. Which he paid. This reasonable bond for murder, as some sources put it, it really fueled speculation. People started saying maybe he was let out on purpose, maybe he was being used as bait or working with somebody. The feeling was this is no ordinary case.
That bond situation definitely raises eyebrows. It feels off. And what's fascinating here is Thang isn't just some random Chicago guy, is he? He's linked to Tee Grizzley's circle.
Yes. That's another key kind of tangled detail. Wu Thang is described as being tied to Lil Durk's sphere. And specifically, he's from the same neighborhood in Chicago, the 600 neighborhood.
Okay, like the drill scene connection.
Exactly. Same neighborhood as Bua 600. And Bua 600 is a Chicago drill rapper who is known to be a very close friend of Tee Grizzley.
How
close enough that Bua 600 was a groomsman at Tee Grizzley's wedding.
Okay, wow. So the alleged killer's associate from the same crew is a groomsman at the victim's nephew-client's wedding. That's complicated.
Very. It's one of the points that people following this case keep coming back to.
All right, let's fast forward to now. Or, well, almost now. Wu Thang's trial for Jobina Brown's murder just kicked off this past Monday, July 14th, 2025. And as you'd expect, with a trial starting years later, some new, potentially explosive information has come out.
Right. And this really brings up questions about the narratives we've heard so far. Your sources are pointing to something significant that happened during the trial just this week. A key witness took the stand. It was Tee Grizzley's other aunt, the one whose house he was going into that night.
The one whose garage was about to open.
That's the one. And her testimony apparently directly contradicted what Tee Grizzley has said publicly about his reaction that night.
How so? What was the contradiction?
Well, Tee Grizzley had stated publicly, that when he heard the shots, he ran to the window to see what's going on, conveying shock and surprise.
Okay, I remember that.
But according to the sources discussing the trial, his aunt, when questioned by the state prosecutor, was asked about telling police that Tee Grizzley reacted that way. And her answer was, reportedly, no, she didn't say that.
So she's saying she didn't tell police he ran to the window like he claimed.
That seems to be the implication reported from the courtroom, a direct contradiction on that specific point of his reaction. It's definitely raised questions, both in court and among people following online.
It's a significant discrepancy.
Yeah.
But maybe the most bombshell revelation coming out of the trial is a theory being put forward by the prosecution itself.
Indeed. This is huge. Your sources indicate that the prosecution in the murder trial against Wu Thang, is now exploring the possibility. They believe Jobina Brown might have been pregnant, allegedly, by Tee Grizzley.
Wait, pregnant? But Tee Grizzley,
Yeah.
that's a massive claim to introduce into a murder trial.
It's an enormous development, and it's something being actively explored right now in court, potentially shifting the entire landscape of motive.
Okay, that's one potential motive being explored by the state.
Right.
What are the other theories that have been circulating about why Jobina Brown was killed? Because there have been others, right?
Oh, yes. Beyond the state's new allegation, there's a pretty detailed theory that's been making the rounds, suggesting financial reasons.
Financial? How so?
This theory posits that Tee Grizzley had significant government debts. So, to protect his assets, he allegedly made Jobina his manager and signed himself to some kind of fake label under her name, basically putting his income stream under her control legally.
Okay.
The theory continues that once his debts were paid off, he wanted the rights to his music back. But allegedly, Jobina refused to sign the necessary papers.
She wouldn't give him his music back.
That's the claim in this theory. And so, according to this narrative, he then allegedly hired Wu Thang, possibly using Bua 600 as the connection to kill her.
Wow, that's quite a theory. Does it address who the target was?
Yes. This theory specifically suggests that the shooters were targeting Jobina, not Tee Grizzley, despite his claims of thinking they were shooting at him. They point to the fact that the driver was apparently unharmed as potential support for this.
How are these financial theories viewed? Especially when you think back to how much Jobina apparently supported him from the start.
Well, your sources present this financial motive theory as something that people believe is out there. It's a narrative being discussed. But they also acknowledge that, yeah, it seems pretty unbelievable to a lot of people.
Right.
Especially given that Jobina was the one who invested in him, who believed in him when, like we said, nobody else did. It feels very contradictory to everything we know about their relationship.
It really does. Okay, and what about this lingering issue Tee Grizzley's continued friendship with Bua 600? Given that Wu Thang, Bua's associate from the same crew, is the one on trial for killing his aunt, that seems to be a major sticking point for people.
It's definitely one of the most discussed and criticized aspects of this whole situation, according to your sources. It's puzzling to many. Yeah.
You have Wu Thang, Bua 600's close associate, charged with murdering Jobina, who Tee called his aunt, his manager, this pivotal figure. And there were even early reports of theories Wu Thang might have been looking for Tee Grizzley too. Yet Tee Grizzley remains close friends with Bua 600.
To the point of him being a groomsman last year.
Exactly. Groomsman at his wedding in 2024. This continued association, it's widely described in the sources as Weird, flawed, disloyal. People question it heavily.
Right.
The speculation is sort of, if Tee Grizzley isn't involved in some way, then continuing this very public friendship makes him look, in the words of some commentators, like an idiot.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sit right with many observers.
It adds another layer of confusion, or maybe just unanswered questions.
Yeah.
And it also seems like the police aren't necessarily closing the book here, even with the trial against Thang happening now.
That's another interesting point raised. Your sources noted that the original $2,500 reward flyer for information leading to an arrest, it was actually re-released the very same day Thang's trial started.
Re-released? The interpretation is that the police don't believe he was acting alone.
Right.
That they're signaling they are not done yet with the broader investigation, even with one person on trial.
So they might be looking for others involved.
That seems to be the suggestion. And there's also a mention that at some point, federal interest in the case just suddenly disappeared, which is also flagged as unusual and adds to the intrigue.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this all mean? It's such a tangled web. We've gone from this really devastating murder of a manager, a family figure, to these deep allegations of hidden motives, testimonies that seem to shift, a legal battle with a suspect who was caught with a murder weapon but gets out on a surprisingly low bond.
Right.
It's a lot.
It really is. And if you kind of zoom out, connect it to the bigger picture, this case is a stark example of just how complex things get when personal relationships, business ties, street dynamics all get tangled up with the legal system. It really forces you to think about how narratives get constructed, doesn't it? Both out here in the public eye, online, and then also inside a courtroom. And just how incredibly difficult it can be to figure out the whole truth when you have so many conflicting accounts, so much speculation swirling around.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
And it leaves us, and you listening, with maybe a final thought to chew on. In a world just saturated with information, with stories like this constantly unfolding and changing, how do you decide what's fact, what's just theory, and what really matters in a story as layered, as tragic, and as ongoing as this one? It's definitely something to keep watching.